Go to chapter 36, international specialization. So when we talk about specialization, basically we're talking about concentration of individuals, concentration of firms, concentration of a country in one aspect of production. Let's see. When it comes to international specialization, basically we're talking about countries to countries. That means a country specializing on, or a country concentrating on one aspect of production, which it can export. That is it. So let's read. Specialization of countries at a national level. Countries usually concentrate on producing those products they are best at making and which are in a high global demand. What countries are best at producing is influenced by the quantity and the quality of their resources. So when you talk about specialization of countries at national level, each country would want to produce what it can produce at the highest capacity. And what a country can produce will be decided by the quantity and the quality of resources available. So if a country can produce oil, like Libya has oil, so that means Libya has the quantity and quality of oil, which when we're talking about the quality, that means Libya has the workers, the expertise to explore this oil. So not just because Libya has oil, Libya has all the resources, all the equipment, machinery, expertise available to be able to export or to be able to produce oil. That is the point they're making here. I think it's clear. Yes. So the main example of, they said, for example, a country with an abundance of fertile land, good irrigation, moist climate, and a large number of workers may decide to concentrate on producing rice. Its average cost of producing rice is likely to be low because it has all these resources. It has both the quality and the quantity of resources needed to produce rice. Its average cost of producing rice will be less. So that means such country will be internationally competitive. That is the point about that. I think it's clear. The main example, in contrast, Hong Kong, which has a very limited supply of land and a highly skilled labor force, concentrates on financial services. For Hong Kong is one of the financial countries that we can talk about. Hong Kong, Tokyo, London, Lagos. Yeah. These are New York, I think, yeah, New York too. These are financial states. Yeah. So they concentrate on financial services. They have skilled labor for that. So that's their own concentration. That is the point they are making there. So we go down. Advantages and disadvantages of specialization at a national level. What are the advantages and disadvantages for consumers? If countries specialize in what they are best at producing, the output should be higher. The higher output should enable consumers to enjoy more goods and services, and hence have higher living standards. So if a country is able to specialize on what it knows how to produce best, this gives customers opportunity to enjoy high level of output because they'll be able to choose from different varieties of products. They'll be able to choose, the cost of producing will be less for them. So they will enjoy, it will be affordable for them. As it is affordable for them, it improves their living standards. Do you get the point here? Yes. If a country is able to specialize on one aspect of product, it allows consumers to get it at an affordable price, which improves the standard of living of consumers. Clear? Yes. Specialization can enable the firms in the country concentrating on producing the product to develop skills and techniques in its production. This would raise the quality of the product. That's another advantage there. With specialization, you continue to produce one specific product. That means you start developing skills in the course of producing such product, then you become better in producing such products. Yes. That's the point they're making. So it improves your skills in the course of producing such products. Specialization may also result in lower cost of production, and the benefit of this may be passed on consumers in the form of lower price. We said it already anyway. So with specialization, the quality of product increases. That's done. With specialization, it could allow countries to have what we call lower cost of production. And if there's low cost of production, that means those low costs of production would make products becomes affordable for consumers. That is the point they are making there. So they buy it at lower price. But there is a risk. However, that one country or a small number of countries may gain control of most of the global market for a product and may use it or their power to restrict supply and push up price. So the problem is that when a country gains global supply of certain product because it's the highest producer of such products. Such country might make other countries to become vulnerable. So they will not supply. So they keep supply to themselves. They reduce supply. As a result, it pushes price upward. Do you get the point here? So countries start relying on that country that does the supply. Libya supply oil. So a lot of countries relies on Libya to supply them oil. Yes or no? Yes. So as a result of this, Libya could stop supplying oil or reduce the quantity supplied to push the price upward.
Yes.
So other countries becomes vulnerable to such situation. They wouldn't have any other choice than to pay those exorbitant price. Do you get it? That's an advantage. That's a problem.
Advantage for the Libya.
Yeah, but it's a problem of it's a problem for countries that rely on the supply. Do you get it? Because they are the consumers here. So they talked about there's a risk of they said yeah, they used OPEC as an example. They said OPEC, a group of major oil producing countries, has pushed up the price of oil in the past. So OPEC, these are organization of petroleum exporting countries. Nigeria is there, Saudi is there. Oil producing countries, they formed OPEC. So these countries are the ones that are in charge of oil supply. So they could reduce oil supply to increase prices of oil. That's the point they are making. So if consumers are buying, is it clear, please? If consumers are buying products from foreign specialists, those firms may not follow the same health and safety standards as in the home country. Any problems that may occur in the countries that are producing the products, including natural disasters, may mean that the products are unavailable at least for some time. So the point is, consumers that are buying products from foreign specialists, like let's say countries that buy from Libya, so they might not be able to follow up. They said those firms may not follow up with some health and safety standards as in the home country. So in your own country, you are buying, you are importing. You might follow up with health and safety measures, but the suppliers might not follow up with health and safety measures, which might result into problems. For example, what happens in Ghana? If Ghana used to supply oil, based on the fact that in Ghana, there was no infrastructure that are in place to curb such situations or to control such situations, supply will not flow from Ghana. So that means we that are depending on Ghana will not be able to get supply. You don't get it? What they are saying is that countries that supply, countries that are specialists in terms of supply, if they don't follow up with health and safety precautions, natural disaster might occur. And if this occurs, it would affect their production, which means those countries relying on them for production will not be able to get the supplies.
Yeah.
So I'm making an example of Ghana. Look at the situation in Ghana. The situation in Ghana is not a natural disaster. It's mistakes of people.
Yes.
Do you understand? So as a result of that, it affects production from Ghana. So countries that rely on Ghana to supply them, just making an example here. So if there are countries that rely on Ghana to supply them goods or services, they won't be able to get it.
Yes.
Clear. So go to the advantages and disadvantages for firms. If firms specialize, they can produce the product on a large scale, and this may enable them to take advantage of economies of scale, such as buying and technical economies. Firms can also buy their raw materials from specialist firms, which are producing high-quality raw materials at low cost. So the advantages of specialization to firms is that they will be operating on a large scale. Do you get the point there? They will be operating on a large scale, and as a result, they will enjoy economies of scale, producing at a low average cost. Okay. Then it could also be that firms might be able to buy from firms that specialize in raw materials. So if their specialties in raw materials, they'll be able to get quality raw materials at a reduced price. Do you get the point here? That is about that. That's the first paragraph. The second paragraph talks about specialization means that countries have to trade Engaging in international trade can help firms in the exchange of new management ideas, information about new products and new technology. So specialization also brings about using new skills, new technology, new information, new managerial ideas. Because when there's specialization, that means you are able to deal with other countries. So other countries might offer you their managerial advice, offer you their technology in exchange for your product. Do you get the point we're making here?
Yes.
For example, Libya has oil. Turkey might want to exchange oil for technology because Libya has it. So specialization brings about this. Do you get it?
Yes, yes, yes.
The top further, they said there are, however, a number of potential disadvantages for firms. One is that if firms become more dependent on other countries for the market of the product they produce and for the source of their raw materials, they can be adversely affected by events in those countries. For example, foreign government could put a tax on imports and may restrict the export of raw materials. If firms have to rely on some countries to get for supply of raw materials that they need for their production, they might become vulnerable. So events in such countries would affect them because they won't be able to get production. They won't be able to get supply. And if they don't have supplies, they won't be able to produce. So that's what we call over dependence. Do you understand? So countries or firms must not depend so much on certain countries because if they do, events in such countries would affect their production. Do you get the point here?
Yes.
So firms could experience a fall in demand. Tastes may change. Firms in other countries may become more efficient producing the product or a substitute product may be developed. So if as a firm, what you do is producing special products. If consumers have change in taste and preferences, the demand for your product will fall. Do you get it?
Yes.
Or if substitutes comes up, they will stop buying your product and start buying other products. That means because you base your products on certain consumers, so you produce special products. So when you produce special products, if the demand for such products reduces, especially because customers can change their habits,
Yes, sir.
so they might go for trends. As a result, the demand for your product will fall. And if the demand for your product falls, then you start losing revenue. That's the point there.
Yes.
Is it clear? So we go to the advantages and disadvantages for the economy, the country as a whole. Generally, it is thought that international specialization and trade increases efficiency and economic welfare. By allowing an economy to concentrate on what it is most efficient at producing, its real GDP should be relatively high. Its output would also be higher than if it used its resources to produce products. Resources are not being suited to making. So, as an economy, if a country specializes on certain aspects of production, it will increase its efficiency because it's producing what it knows how to produce best. Do you get the point they're making here? If a country specializes on one aspect of production,
Yes.
it will increase the efficiency of such country. Why? Because the country will be doing what it knows how to do best. As a result, output of such products would increase in that country, increasing the real GDP.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
That's the point there. So here they said, the main example. I don't think we need that. So it shifts the production possibility curve, right? What? That's just basically what it is. Let me see what we need to know here. Let me see. Let me just read it through. They said, for example, the USA is a world leader in development of aircraft technology, and as some of the most advanced capital equipment and skilled labor. This makes it one of the main manufacturers of the aircraft. The US is a major consumer of coffee, but it only produces a small amount of coffee in Hawaii and California. This is because it does not have the right climate and its labor is more skilled in producing the other products. Combined with international trade, specialization can allow an economy to consume outside its production possibility curve. For example, an economy may be able to produce either this. So what they are trying to say here is that with specialization, you will produce what you know how to produce best. You will be able to rely on other countries to produce what they know how to produce best. That allows you to get resources from other countries to be able to put for which you can consume. So you won't only rely on what you can produce, you can also rely on what other countries can produce. So because you can't produce it, does not mean you cannot consume it. You'll be able to consume it because you have trade relationship with other countries. So they made the example of US here, using aircraft as US produces more aircraft with technology. But US cannot produce coffee, but they consume coffee. So they leave coffee for those countries that can produce it at their highest maximum. Then they can import from there.
Yes, yes, yes.
That is basically what specialization will do. Specialization allows a country to rely to be able to consume what it cannot produce.
Yes, yes.
Is it clear? So that's basically what they are talking about there. So we go to absolute advantage. Scroll down, please. Are you there?
Yeah.
Absolute advantage. They say it is used to be thought that most international trade was based on what is called absolute advantage. This is not actually the case, although it does account for some international trade. A country has an absolute advantage in producing a product if it can produce it using fewer resources than other countries. So there's absolute advantage only when you can produce that product which other countries produce, but you can produce it at a reduced cost. Did you get the point here? There's absolute advantage. When we talk about absolute advantage, it means we have to compare country A, country B, country C, country D. Yes. So if country A, B, C, and D produce have the same specialization. Mm-hmm. So that country that is able to produce with less resources is having an absolute advantage over other countries. Do you understand what absolute advantage is here? So you are able to produce the product other countries produce using reduced resources.
Yes, sir.
That is absolute advantage. Is it clear?
Yes.
Then we have comparative advantage. They said it is on comparative advantage rather than absolute advantage. Okay, here they said the most international trade is based. A country is said to have a comparative advantage in producing a product if it can produce at a lower opportunity cost. So the difference between comparative advantage and absolute advantage. For comparative advantage, it means that you are able to produce what other countries are producing at a reduced opportunity cost. So there's opportunity cost of producing that product, but your own opportunity cost of producing that product is lesser to compare when compared with opportunity cost of other countries.
Also about opportunity cost.
Okay.
Which is less.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Yeah. Libya produces oil to the highest capacity. Yes. But if Libya has to produce oil, Libya might not be able to, Libya might not be able to service to export financial services. So if Libya has to produce oil, financial services that Libya would not be able to offer, export of services might be to, okay, let's say export of financial services is quantified as 50%. As export of financial services is 50%, export of oil is 50%. Okay. So if Libya has to produce oil, more oil, it's let's say if Libya has to produce 70 units of oil, it won't be able to produce, it will only produce 30 units of financial services. Yes. Do you get it? So the opportunity cost is 30 units. Mm-hmm. That is for Libya. So let's talk about Nigeria. If Nigeria has to produce 70% of oil, it might mean that it won't be able to produce 30% of financial services. Maybe it will have to produce, maybe Libya will not be, let's say Libya will not be able to produce 70% of oil, at the same time produce 30% of financial services. So if Libya has to produce 70% of oil, it has to produce lesser than 40% or 30% of financial services. Do you get it or not? No, you don't get it. When the opportunity cost of producing oil, okay, let me put it this way. If the opportunity cost of producing oil is lesser than the opportunity cost of producing oil for other countries. That is comparative opportunity advantage of opportunity. Did you get it now?
Yes.
If what it costs you to produce oil is lesser than what it costs them to produce oil, that is comparative advantage.
Yes.
If you have to use less resources to produce oil than
That's
other countries, that is absolute advantage. Is it clear now?
Yes, yes.
So the difference between comparative advantage, let me review here. So the difference between absolute advantage and comparative advantage in specialization is that when we're talking about absolute advantage, it means when you compare with other countries that have the same specialization as yours, you are able to use less resources for your own production. That is absolute advantage. But when it comes to comparative advantage, it means that the cost of you producing certain products when compared to other countries that produce the same product as yours is lesser than those other countries. So the cost of producing oil, let's say the cost of, for example, the cost of producing oil in Libya is lesser than the cost of producing oil in other countries that are other OPEC countries. That is comparative advantage. But when it comes to absolute advantage, we're talking about using less resources to produce oil than other countries that produces oil too.
Yes.
Comparative advantage and absolute advantage. Clear, right?
Yes. Give example.
I give example.
No, that's it. Germany.
Okay, they give example.
Germany.
Yeah, look at it now. For 4 cars, 1 car. Chemicals used 400, 200 here. So that's what they are talking about. So Germany can produce 4 cars, but the unit of chemicals that it will use is around 400. But Italy will produce 1 car with 200. So here, Germany is having comparative advantage over Italy. Do you get the point they're making here?
Comparative advantage. Yeah.
Do you get it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Changes in comparative.
Okay, we'll go to changes now. So this changes in comparative advantage. This comparative advantage changes over time. In the past, the US and the UK had a comparative advantage in producing steel. Now the comparative advantage lies with Brazil, China, and Malaysia. Comparative advantages changes as relative costs change. A country may gain a comparative advantage in a product because it discovers new sources of minerals, makes its land more fertile, adopts new technology, or increase the productivity of its workers by improving education and training. India, with a labor force having good ICT skills and good command of over English, has the comparative advantage in operating call centers. China is currently improving its performance in producing computers and may soon gain a comparative advantage. So comparative advantage comes when you are able to, source for more resources. When you have edge in terms of technology, when you have edge in terms of resources you use, all these things makes you to be cost effective. So as a result of you being cost effective, you spend less in producing certain products when compared to other countries that does the same thing as you do. That is comparative advantages. So this thing changes over time. Changes over time means that they made the example of using US and UK having comparative advantage in producing steel. But these days, they don't have it. The countries that have it now is Brazil, China, and Malaysia, when you compare it to other countries that produce steel. So Brazil, China, and Malaysia are having comparative advantage over other countries that produce steel. Based on the fact that maybe Brazil is having they discovered new mineral resources. They discovered new ways of doing things. They educated their workforce, which adds up with their skills and efficiency. Is it clear? So the link between countries specializing and international trade. Producing a relatively narrow range of products will mean that the country will have to export some of their products. So this is necessarily for them to gain revenue for spending on imports of products that their citizens want to buy, but their countries are not producing. So when you are producing a relatively narrow range of products, you would need, that means you cannot produce virtually everything you need as a country. So your citizens have to rely on importation. For them to rely on importation, you as a country must try. A country must try to do exports too, so that it can cover up for the imports that the country will rely on.
Yeah. That's the thing.
If not, your balance of payment will be on deficit.
Mhm.
That is the point they are making. Is it clear? So the difference between international and internal trade. Trade involves the exchange of goods and services. International trade, which can also be referred to as external trade, is the exchange of goods and services between countries. In contrast, international trade is trade within a country. Any trade involves risk and effort. A firm based in one part of the country selling goods to individuals or firms in another part of the country has to arrange and pay for transport and may have to wait for the payment of goods. International trade enables firms to reach a wider market, take greater advantage of economies of scale, source their product from a wider area and earn higher profit. It may, however, provide additional challenges to those posed by international trade. The difference between international trade and internal trade is that international trade is a trade, it's free trade. That means trade between countries, while internal trade is trade within the country. Internal trade is trading within Libya.
Yes.
International trade is Libya with other countries. Clear?
Yes.
With international trade, countries will be able to firms dealing in international trade will be able to operate on a larger scale. Why? Because they will be able to do export. As a result of that, they will enjoy economies of scale.
Mhm.
That is the point they are making there. Because they can sell to they can sell to foreign customers.
Yes.
If they can sell to foreign customers, they can also get resources from foreign businesses at a cheaper rate. Do you get the point they're making here? So with international trade, there's always opportunity for firms to have a reduced cost on production. Clear?
Yes.
So any trade involves risk and effort. We talked about that too.
Yeah.
So whatever we do, is it international or internal? It both involves risk and effort. So that means we have to try to get things done better. If not, we'll start losing revenue. If you have to sell to domestic customers, you have to make effort. If you have to sell to foreign customers, you need to make effort. That's the point I'm making.
Yes.
I think it's clear.
Yes.
Buying and selling products across national boundaries may involve the products traveling greater distances. Firms may have to deal with buyers and sellers speaking different languages. That was one of the problems about this is the second problem. The first problem about international trade is that you have to travel a large distance. Cost of transportation.
Mhm.
The first one. The second point is barriers, language barrier. You might have to start translating,
Mhm.
making content in different languages. Differences in culture. Our attitude is different. The Libyan culture is different from the Nigerian culture. The Nigerian culture is so if a Libyan firm that wants to sell in Nigeria might have to adapt to the Nigerian culture. Clear, right? Is it clear?
Yes.
All right. So that is about that. So we go to trade restrictions before the tariffs. No, it's still the same. Yeah. So it's a trade restriction may also make it difficult for firms to sell their products abroad. So another problem, we've talked about difference in culture, difference in language. We've talked about cost of transportation. The next one is
Yes.
trade restrictions.
Yeah, tariffs and like what?
Yeah, so trade restrictions can also make it difficult for firms
Mhm.
to sell to exports. Examples are tariffs, taxes on importation, or quotation or quota system, where the numbers of what you can export is limited. So these things reduces firms' revenue because they won't be able to export.
Mhm.
That is the point about that. So go to multiple choice questions. They say, which of the following conditions promote international trade?
International trade. Yeah.
Which of the following main conditions promote?
Promote. So it's B.
B, yes.
Yeah.
Differences in quantity and quality of resources in countries. Question 2. The table shows the output per worker for two products in two countries. What can be concluded from this information. Country Y has 50 tractors, produces 500. Country Z has 10 tractors, produces 250. Country Z has a comparative advantage in producing tractors. Country Z has the absolute advantage in producing both. Country Y will export tractors and import wheat. It will not be beneficial for the two countries to trade.
Okay. Comparative advantage.
50 tractors, 500 tons.
Company Z has the comparative advantage in producing tractors.
10 tractors, 250 tons. If you are if you are producing 10, you have 10 tractors. Tractors, you produce 250. You have
absolute advantage.
Absolute advantage.
Absolute, yeah.
So country Z has absolute advantage in producing
Both products, yeah. That's big.
Producing both, yes. Question 3. A firm which previously had traded internally decides to trade externally. What additional risk will it face?
D.
No.
D.
D.
Yeah.
Good.
Because it may impose a sales tax.
Please take your time to look at it. Take your time.
Yes, D.
D.
Please.
Question 4. The table shows the main sources of export earnings with respective products for 4 countries. What can be concluded from this information? The table shows the main source of export earnings with respective products for 4 countries. Okay. Cars, okay. Percentage of export earnings 58. Okay. Country X and Y specialize in the production of primary products. Country X and Y. Country X and Z in primary products. Copper, oil. Yes. Country W and Y specialize in the production of tertiary products.
Yeah.
Country W and
No.
Y.
It's not B. It's not B. Can't.
Specialize in tertiary. No.
No,
Country
no.
Y, tertiary. Country W, car is secondary.
Yeah.
Country Z earns most of its export revenue from sales of secondary products. Country Z, secondary products. No, that's primary. Country Z earns maximum export revenue. Maximum export revenue.
Yeah.
80%.
Not the maximum. It's 8%. Like
How do you know it's? We said maximum export revenue. Listen.
80%. Not 100.
Okay, wait. It's maximum. But the 80%, do you know the value of 80%? The value.
No. So it's 8.
So country X and Z specializes in the production of primary products.
Yeah. X and Z.
Yes. So the answer is A. So when you look at country Z earns maximum export revenue, how do you know the maximum export revenue? Yeah, they said the percentage of export revenue, the percentage. This is the percentage.
Yeah. Oh, we don't know that. Yeah.
They said the maximum export revenue, the revenue, not the
Revenue,
percentage
not
of.
the-
Do you get it?
Yes.
They will convince you. So the answer is A. Clear.
Yes.
So that ends specialization. International specialization, right?
Yeah.